Okay, it's 6 o'clock. The Board of Zoning Appeals meeting will now come to order. Will you please call the roll?
Ms. Collins?
Here.
Mr. Lees?
Here.
Mr. Young? Mrs. Pettit?
Here.
Mr. Beard?
Here.
Mr. Downs?
Okay, we do have a quorum. If you will rise and join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'll briefly explain the BZA process. The case will be introduced by myself. Mr. Seifert will give the case background information. Anyone wishing to make a statement before the BZA board will be administered an oath by the chair. When they approach the podium, you will give your name, your address, and you will be given 5 minutes to speak to the variance. All comments will be directed strictly to the BZA. The applicant will be given 5 minutes to present their case. Those wishing to speak to the variance will each be given 5 minutes to present their comments. The applicant will be given 5 minutes to address any concerns or make any closing statements. Then the BZA will deliberate on the variance request. We're here to hear BZA case 2023-07, requested by Louis, is it Barchanowitz? Fantastic. Who resides at 39 Nightingale Trail, Enon. Mr. Seifert.
A letter was submitted to the board from Mr. Louis Barchanowitz, property owner 39 Nightingale Trail. The property owner is requesting a 4-foot variance for a side setback for a detached accessory building in the rear of his property. The codified ordinance, section 116704E, states a detached accessory building shall be at least 6 feet from any side or rear lot lines. Per ordinance 118305, 10-day notice to the Springfield paper on October 6th, 10-day notice to property owners within 300 feet, October 5th. Package to the board was October 5th, letters to the owner October 5th, posted on Facebook about the meeting was October 5th as well. There's the property owners in the mesh area there that is affected by the 300 feet, if you can see that. Excuse me. And that's just, the name and the parcel number of the property in question. There's an aerial of the property in question. I think you can see by that picture, was that the existing building?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought. So you can kind of see it's right on the line according to that picture. And these auditor shots can be off just a little bit, but they're usually fairly
It's pretty
close.
close. That one's close.
Yeah, they're usually fairly close. So that's the aerial. Here was the drawing that was presented in stating that the new shed will be 2 foot from the fence. And it's these are just various pictures. That's a picture of the new building going in. And there's the ordinance stating where it has to be 6 feet from any buildings or side or rear lot lines.
Okay. With that, Mr. Barchanowitz, would you like to speak?
Yes, sir.
If you will, let me administer the oath to you. If you will, raise your right hand. I, and say your name,
I, Louis Barchanowitz,
Swear to tell the whole truth
swear to tell the whole truth
and nothing but the truth.
and nothing but the truth.
Thank you, sir. You have 5 minutes.
All right, with this shed, the original shed that was originally put there was quite ugly, and it was very termite ridden to the point where the whole backside was about to collapse. The tree next to it was termite ridden all the way to the core, to the point where a next storm probably would have brought it down, including the tree on the other side of it. So a whole reasoning for even taking it down and removing it and replacing it was that whole reason to begin with. And when we chose a shed, the shed we chose wasn't a shed just like that one. We chose one that looks good, that looks exactly like the house. We chose the colors on purpose. We chose legitimate builders out of, I think it was Amish country. Yeah. And this shed was originally going to be a gift from my mother to me and Alicia, because we bought a house that has a type of mother-in-law suite in addition, so that way move my mom in when she goes to retire, she doesn't have to worry about nothing. But that shed was unrepairable. We didn't, honestly, I didn't know about an ordinance. I didn't know anything about that. We've always lived in the country, and when I wasn't in the living in the country, I was living in an apartment or living in barracks while active duty military. So, and then the original contractor we hired, which was the original picture shown for the, I think the original complaint was made, doesn't look anything like that. The original contractors, I didn't talk to them. My mom was trying to do it. And they changed their story twice when I talked to them. First time they said that my mom said she didn't want to go to the city of Eden. They suggested it. And the second time they told me they went to the city of Eden and said we didn't need a permit to do it. So, and then the job they did was completely shoddy. We've had to fire them and hire someone new. And the new pictures you guys were seeing were the new pictures where the shed will actually be level with the ground. The original guys were they robbed us, basically. They broke our fence. They aren't even trying to replace the fence. Otherwise, we would have applied for the variance ahead of time and the permit ahead of time, but I figured the contractors would know all that. Usually, from my experience, if you need something like that done, the contractors go and apply, and they just party your fees. Never had to apply for any of that before. Again, always lived in the country.
Okay.
All right.
All right,
Thanks.
thank you. Is there anyone that would like to, in the audience that would like to speak? Yes, ma'am.
Do I come up there?
Yes, please. And if you will, raise your right hand. I, and state your name,
I, Teresa McLean.
swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Okay.
Last time I said that, I think I got married.
All right. Give your name and address, and we'll go from there.
Okay. Teresa McLean, 600 Canary Court. If you looked at the map that he pulled up, my property is across the street. I've been there about 10 years and 4 months. This is the third person that's lived there. The shed, I went and looked last night. I'm glad to have them. They have done a lot to the property. They've made it look better outside. Not from the first owners, the Norrises were there first when I moved in. But the two owners after the Norrises, well, they've done a lot. So I went over to look last night because I couldn't understand, because it looks like that the shed was close to the fence to begin with when I moved in. And it is my understanding that if they had known to apply for a variance while the old shed was still up, that it probably would have been granted as is there a possibility of that? What we have, and I see this in my subdivision, is we don't have realtors reminding people that there are codes. When people move to Hawk Meadows, for instance, or some of the other places, I think they're going to the country, and that rules don't necessarily apply. But I didn't know there was a rule. A neighbor told me, so I came and applied for a permit when I had my Amish built shed put in. But I went over there and walked it yesterday. It appeared that area they've cleared in order and had a foundation built in order to place the shed. Honestly, I think it's in the same place. And I'm a stickler for rules, as you know. So I would be the first one to complain if I thought this was tacky or not really an improvement to the shed that was there. So I have no problem as the only neighbor, or the closest neighbor to them that showed up tonight.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Is there anyone else that wishes to speak? Yes, sir. If you will, raise your right hand. I, and state your name,
I, Paul Radachek,
swear to tell the whole truth
swear to tell the whole truth
and nothing but the truth.
and nothing but the truth.
Your name and your address.
My
and-
name's Paul Radachek. I can spell that for you later if you care. And I live at, my girlfriend Heather Cameron and I, we both live at 57 Nightingale Trail, which is up on the cul-de-sac. And our property doesn't quite back up to the appellants here, but we're about 1 yard separated from them. Our house is up on a hill, way up on a hill, so we can see down into people's yards all around. They have a fence around their property, and if this whole thing hadn't happened, we would never have known that the new shed or whatever you want to call it is too close to the fence. It looks perfectly fine where it's at. It looks like there's plenty of room for them to service their lawn behind it. Heather and I have talked about it. We have no problems with them leaving the shed where it's at. Yeah, it does look great. It looks a lot better than the one that they tore down.
Okay.
That's pretty much all we have to say.
All right, thank you, sir. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak? Okay, seeing none. Mr. Barshanowitz, do you wish to add any further comments?
Yes, one more thing, sorry. Oh, one more thing about that. About moving the shed anywhere else, we can't put it in the front yard or anything like that because we have a leach bed. Nothing can go there. I'm actually want to aerate my yard to be able to put seed in and all that, but I don't know if I can. I'm going to have to probably hire someone to look at it. And then if we move the shed any further toward where it actually make the 6 foot, it would actually run over top of our drainage lines for our house. And we had to install that because the last owners allowed themselves to have water intrusion. So we had to fix all that. And then the shed itself, where the people are putting it in, are actually putting drainage around that to also keep drainage from being an issue around the house. And most of the stuff we're trying to do, we're always trying to increase property value. And because we know if our property value goes up, our neighbors know their property value goes up. We really just want to review the shed itself. I don't think the shed, the inside square footage is any bigger than the same size. The only thing that makes it bigger is the porch. It has a porch. Inside is the same. We're just using it to be able to put our winter, our summertime stuff away so it doesn't get damaged, and a place to put a lawnmower because the side of it has doors that open. You can drive up into it and put your lawnmower away. I can't exactly lift it up in there. And our garage is only a 2-car garage, so we need to be able to put their cars in the garage during the winter.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, sir. All right, so let's go through our questions.
Mr. Beard,
Yes,
I have a question about the overall process. Should I wait until you're finished with this, Dan?
go ahead and ask your question.
Okay. My name's Rosalie Gibler. I live on Bob White Drive. And I've been a resident of Enon for most of almost 65 years, on and off.
Can I
And-
get you to swear?
Oh, okay.
Swear the oath,
Even though it's not
please.
part of this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just to be on. I, and state your name.
I, Rosalie Gibler, swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyway, and I've lived in Hawk Meadows on Bob White for almost 37 years. And we were given a copy of the covenants or ordinances, whatever you want to call it, when we moved in. But I don't think it's happening now. How do I go about, as a resident of Hawk Meadows or of Enon, to start the process of making sure everyone gets this before something needs to be brought up?
That's not really under our Board of Zoning Appeals. I would,
Okay.
and covenants don't fall within the board, within our zoning regulations.
Okay.
I would say, talk with Mr. Seifert
Okay.
and go from there.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All right. We will, there are 7 questions that we have to address. The first is whether the property will yield reasonable return or whether there can be any beneficial use of the property without the variance. Does any board members have anything to comment? I think it was, as he pointed out, the rear yard in his application, the rear yard is small, and the building, based on its looks, should add value to the property, and it is a 16 by 16 storage shed when you take in the full with square footage with the roof and everything. Question 2, whether the variance is substantial. You're supposed to have 6 feet. You're basically asking to set 2 feet off of the property line. Is that correct? So you're asking for a 4-foot variance. That's about 2/3 of the distance. Any comments? Okay. 3, whether the essential character of the neighborhood would be substantially altered or whether adjoining properties would suffer substantial detriment as a result of the variance. Okay,
No, I mean, we've had neighbors actually say they don't mind it, so.
right. And having drove by, you did match up the color scheme of the house very nicely. It just kind of fits right in with the whole property. The 4th one is whether the variance would adversely affect delivery of governmental services.
Probably not.
Not that I could determine. 5, whether the property owner purchased the property with knowledge of zoning restrictions. You have stated you were not aware. And you did indicate the pool lines and the drain lines would be affected by moving the shed. 6 is whether the property owner's predicament can feasibly be obviated through some method other than the variance. Basically, have you considered any other options that would not require this variance? You did point out in your application, moving the shed could potentially place it too close to the house. No room to mow between the house and the shed. Damage of pool lines, downspout lines, and building would end up at the low spot of the yard, causing water pooling and such. Does any board members have any other comments? 7, whether the spirit and intent behind the zoning requirements would be observed and substantial justice done by granting the variance. No comments?
Nope.
All right. So, having went through those 7 questions, I need a motion to approve or deny the variance, a second, and a roll call vote.
Make a motion to approve the variance.
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Mr. Lees, second by Ms. Collins. Any discussion? Mr. Seifert called the roll.
Ms. Collins?
Yes.
Mr. Least?
Yes.
Mrs. Pettit?
Yes.
Mr. Beard?
Yes. Okay, so variance 2023-07 has been approved by the BZA. Is there any old business? Any new business?